7 on News Channel 6. Hurt on the job and about to make a worker's... The Live 5 for 6 Skyview Network, sponsored by Terry Lambert Hyundai.
Well, we're tracking certainly some warm temperatures. We're tracking a lot of pollen, and we're tracking storms. It certainly sounds like springtime, does it? 5 for 6 alert day posted for Friday. Full details of your forecast straight ahead.
Right now on News Channel 6 at 4, hard to believe the month of March is already upon us, but it is, and it is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. Today, we're going to hear from a survivor.
Plus, 2 Richmond County jailers arrested in response to an alleged assault on an inmate. We'll hear from the sheriff.
And Major League Fishing comes to Columbia County Schools to talk water safety. Your News at 4 starts now.
Live from Television Park, this is Wjbf News Channel 6 at 4.
And I'm Jenny Montgomery. Thank you for joining us.
We do appreciate it. This coverage you can count on begins with the Richmond County Sheriff speaking out after 2 of his jailers got arrested yesterday. Gerardo Sanchez Jr. and Josh Jackson charged with simple battery and violation of oath of office, accused of assaulting inmate Alvin Yarberry. Last week, Yarberry filed the complaint. There is video evidence, and we do want to warn you the video we're about to show you is graphic, and it could be upsetting for some of you, so know that. As we tell you that Sheriff Roundtree says the inmate is known for faking medical emergencies, and that's what the jailers were responding to when they assaulted him. It does make 12 employees, though, arrested over the last year from the sheriff's office, 6 of them for using excessive force. Sheriff says this string of incidents shows a gap in training and culture for his 700-plus employees, and he says his office is going to take steps to prevent this from happening again.
Because we're doing the training, but I think we're just not reinforcing it enough, and that's something that we have to instill in our training or in our musters or when we meet every month, or just to come up with some kind of program or check in with our counselor where we mandatorily make them check in on a periodic basis. So we're looking at all of those things to try to fill that gap.
The sheriff says he wants these changes put in place within the next 30 days. By the way, both of those jailers have been fired.
A Navy veteran wife and mother beat her stage 3 colorectal cancer diagnosis and wants to help encourage others. News Channel 6's Renata Dubose spoke with her and an MCG doctor working to put a stop to colon cancer.
Evelyn Farmer arrived at Fort Gordon in 2006, ready to serve in the Navy. And back then, the Missouri native knew very little about how cancer impacted her family history.
I believed that my uncle had colon cancer, and it just never was discussed.
That lack of knowledge was something the wife and mother of 2 never thought would matter.
It could never be me. That's just pretty much how I thought, was that I would never be a part of that statistic.
But the odds were not in Farmer's favor.
I started having rectal bleeding. I also was going to the restroom, but was having no success. Didn't know what was going on. I went to my doctor. They were telling me due to my age, it was probably just a hemorrhoid.
Not willing to accept what doctors said, Farmer raised her voice to advocate for herself. She requested a colonoscopy at just 38 years old. The result? A cancerous rectal tumor.
I was actually just shocked. I had literally no emotion.
Her journey started in the summer of 2019. After a stage 3 diagnosis with the second deadliest cancer, Farmer launched her treatment plan, one that she says was hopeful because if caught early, you can survive. So it was off to Augusta University, where she underwent 6 weeks of radiation. There was also a chemo pill and surgery in Athens.
Due to the radiation, it killed a lot of my tissue and birthed a lot of the healthy tissue, so I had to have a permanent colostomy.
And what is that?
That's a stoma where they take part of your intestine, they turn it inside out, and they sew it onto your stomach, and that's where your stool now comes from.
MCG cancer immunologist Kevin Liu says once colon cancer spreads, it's hard to treat. He received $1.2 million last year from Veterans Affairs to understand the disease and how it stops the immune system from working the way it should.
Most people do not have cancer because we have immune cell, right? So if your body's cancer cell find a way to suppress the immune cell, now you get a cancer.
Despite the odds, Farmer is now an advocate with Colorectal Cancer Alliance, drumming up support in the CSRA and beyond. In Augusta, Renata Dubose, WJBF News Channel 6.
Farmer wants people to join her in wearing blue on Friday, March 3rd. It's Dress in Blue Day for colorectal cancer awareness.
Local schools working hard to address food allergies these days. Nutrition experts say they just want to make sure that their children in their classrooms and cafeterias don't run into any incidents when they eat. In Columbia County, all teachers have EpiPens and Benadryl in case of an emergency. It's really to make sure students and staff are safe.
Part of our responsibility in a school system is to make sure they don't have any exposure to that food allergy. So that goes along with the great staff that we have in our cafeterias, making sure that they are aware of these children that have food allergies because it's noted on their account.
Schools remind you, moms and dads, make sure that everybody at the school knows if your child does have an allergy so that they can be ready.
A Marine Corps veteran begins his 22-hour workout today to raise awareness for mental health in the veteran community. Tiffany Hobbs is live at Max Fitness in Aiken with the story.
Thanks, Jenny. Well, Adam Cooper is just about to begin his workout on the stair climber. He is looking to beat his 6.5-hour record on the stair climber. And he says that the reason why he wanted to come here to raise awareness for mental health is because the gym is his therapy. Now, Cooper chose to do 22 hours because of a reported statistic that 22 veterans commit suicide each day. And having served in the Marine Corps for 4 years, he tells us he went through a dark time where even he questioned his purpose. For Cooper, fitness saved his life.
Fitness has saved my life, and I believe it can save a lot of people's lives. And I will open myself up to anybody that comes to me and wants to know information about fitness or health and how to do it. And I truly believe we need more people to get healthy, not just physically, but more importantly, mentally.
Everyone in the community is invited to come out and support. There will be apparel for sale, and you can also give to a foundation called When Life Sucks, which is aimed at helping veterans going through traumatic times. We will be here live on News Channel 6 at 5 with an update. And Adam, he just went to the stair climber. This is so exciting. Everyone's so rallied up. Tune in with us. Back to you, Jenny.
Tiffany, thank you so much. It is time now for our first check of the forecast with
In just a few minutes, Jenny Brand. All right, Tim, thank you. Former University of Georgia football star and projected top NFL draft pick Jalen Carter is facing charges tonight. They're connected to that crash that killed a UGA staffer and football player in January. Athens-Clarke County Police today charging Carter with racing, also with reckless driving in the crash that took the lives of Georgia recruiting staff member Chandler LaCroix and offensive lineman Devin Willock. Warren show LaCroix and Carter were driving in a manner consistent with racing when LaCroix's vehicle crashed. Police say LaCroix was driving about 104 miles per hour and her blood alcohol level was 0.197, more than twice the legal limit at the time of the crash. This morning, Georgia head football coach Kirby Smart releasing a statement reacting to the charges against Carter. Smart says the charges announced today are deeply concerning, especially as we are still struggling to cope with the devastating loss of two beloved members of our community. Smart went on to say that they are fully cooperating with authorities. Carter was supposed to have a media availability at the NFL Combine up in Indianapolis today. That did not happen.
It was a chance for big shows at Lake Olmsted Stadium, but now it's heading to court. As we reported, Augusta is filing a lawsuit against C4 Live for breach of contract over planned concerts at Lake Olmsted Stadium. The city and the promoters entered into a 10-year deal in 2020 with C4 agreeing to pay for renovations at the stadium. But the deal fell apart last year with no concerts and the city saying Lake Olmsted Stadium is unusable.
When they started on work, I mean, it's not a baseball field anymore. It can't be utilized anymore. So, in my opinion, that yeah, we're at a point where we need to get it fixed or see where we're going now.
Promoters said the shows were canceled at the stadium due to unstable soil conditions. But as according to the city's lawsuit, the defendant abandoned the project at the stadium for its own economic reasons, unrelated to any subsurface condition.
The North Columbia Elementary School getting some help to teach kids about water safety, some professional help. News Channel 6's Brandon Dawson has the story.
1, 2, 3, safety! Major League Fishing and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers teamed up to promote water safety for students at North Columbia Elementary School.
Life jackets, personal flotation device, same thing. Those are important for people to wear when they're in a boat. It helps you float. You got to keep your nose and your mouth above the surface of the water because you can't breathe underwater. You're not a fish.
The Army Corps of Engineers believe it's important to get this information to kids at an early age.
We have a water community. There's a lot of places where kids can get into water, ponds, ditches, lake, river. We want to make sure that they have a lifetime of knowledge and fun that is safe.
Around the lake, it's now easier than ever to get a life jacket.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has many beaches around the lake, and they have life jacket loaner stations at most of them where you can borrow a life jacket, use it for the day, then put it back.
With a big Major League Fishing tournament happening at Clark Lakes Hill, professional angler Charlie Evans was able to stop by with his boat to help bring home the message.
Our message is simple. It's wearing a life jacket, and Charlie's providing a practical example within how they wear their life jackets while they're fishing and all the safety measures they take.
But make sure we're wearing our PFD, our life jacket. Every time that big gets run, you need to have that life jacket on, zipped up and buckled up. The driver needs to have the ignition off device attached to their body. Safety is the number one important thing.
The presentation was a big hit with students, and the information they learned will stay with them for years to come.
We hope that the kids will have a lifetime of outdoor activity that is safe, where they come out to the lake and they play and they boat and they mountain bike and they hunt and they enjoy the woods and they enjoy this world.
Brandon Dawson, WJBF News Channel 6.
Democratic Georgia lawmakers are pushing for a new measure to reduce gun violence in the state. They want a new bill passed that would require a lock for gun owners to prevent weapons from getting into the wrong hands or lead to accidental shootings. The series of bills would toughen penalties if a gun wasn't safely secured if there was a minor at home.
Guns are the #1 killer of our children in Georgia, which is a horrible statistic, and I don't have all the numbers at the top of my head, but this is something we have a responsibility to address, and so I hope that we can work together in a bipartisan fashion to protect our children and to implement a Safe Gun Storage Act.
A recent study by Everytown shows that gun deaths went up 25% in the past decade, higher than 17% across the country, with the leading causes as murders and suicide, both higher than the national average. Coming up, we have the latest on the Alec Murdaugh double murder trial.
Yeah, the trial winding down. Attorneys presenting their closing arguments today. Coverage from the courtroom after the break.
News Channel 6 is the most watched news station in the CSRA.
Bringing you the latest news to prepare you for the day.
And what you missed while you were sleeping.
Good Morning Augusta, weekday mornings on News Channel 6.
Welcome back, everybody. The double murder trial of Alec Murdaugh is coming to a close. It's been going on for 6 weeks.
As attorneys made their closing arguments today in Walterboro, Wen has details.
A conclusion nearing in the double murder trial gripping the nation of a once powerful lawyer in Low Country, South Carolina. A jury soon to decide the fate of Alec Murdaugh, accused of brutally killing his wife and youngest son on June 7th, 2021. Today, the jury traveled to the site of the murders in the family's estate where Murdaugh claims he found his wife and son shot dead that night. The visit coming ahead of closing arguments after both sides rested their cases.
State rests.
The prosecution attempting to poke holes in the defense's case that there might have been 2 shooters.
So what did you find odd about the theory, first of all?
I
think the theory is preposterous, in my opinion.
Murdoch's lawyers arguing he's a family man who loved Paul and Maggie, but the state painting a picture of a desperate, disgraced father who killed the two to obtain sympathy after several investigations opened into the money he's accused of stealing. Murdoch himself taking the stand last week admitting to embezzling his clients out of millions of dollars to pay for his drug addiction, insisting, though, he never committed the murders.
You take this gun or any gun like it and blow your son's brains out on June 7th or any day or any time.
No, I did not.
The fourth-generation prosecutor, at times visibly emotional. But the state taking aim at that, calling his former law partner to show how expressive Murdoch would be presenting cases as a trial attorney.
He was a theatrical type presence in the courtroom.
After closing arguments and instruction from the judge, the jury will then deliberate. The jury is expected to have the case tomorrow. Now, if convicted of murdering his wife and son, Murdoch faces 30 years to life in prison without parole. M. Wynn, ABC News, Walterboro.
Coming up, we have another look at your weather forecast with Tim.
Yeah, he'll break down the rain chances for the rest.
Coming up, we have another look at your weather forecast with Tim.
Yeah, he'll break down the rain chances for the rest of this work week in a moment.
I'm attorney Jenny.
All right, Tim, thanks a lot. Coming up, raising teenagers can be challenging, especially when they don't talk to you.
We've been there. How you can get your teen to open up and have a conversation when we return.
At Kroger, we want everyone.
Parents of teenagers often complain that it's tough to get them to open up and talk to them. Well, a psychologist says in her experience, teens tend to become downright chatty when their parents are ready to go to bed. So, she suggests letting your teen tuck you in.
That way they feel more independent and that they're acting on their own terms. And teens prefer to talk to their parents at night when their folks tend to ask fewer questions and listen more. And Brad, I was saying to you that I totally remember doing that to my mother when I was a teenager. Coming in at night and sitting on the edge of her bed and talking to her.
Some of the best talks.
Yep.
Are at
Totally
that
did that.
There's a lot more coverage you can count on coming up next on News Channel 6 at 4:30.
Including how Congress is pushing a bill that will prevent future toxic train derailment. That's up next with Dee Griffin.